safety unsecured all night.
Hello and welcome to this emergency podcast of the Rangers Journal. My name is Billy Rankin. I'm joined this evening, and there's going to be a few others joining in, I believe, but a happy man, Ryan, mate. How are you doing?
The dog's
Even
even
the dog's
happy.
getting involved.
The dog's
Even the
even
dog's
happy.
getting involved.
Hopefully.
And Ross, welcome aboard. How you doing, mate?
I woke up to start a night shift in a far, far better mood than I was when I went to bed earlier on this morning. But it's been a long time coming, I think, for us all.
Well, we may as well talk about what you are so happy about, and that's that leaking reports this evening from pretty credible sources is that the board have finally made the decision to relieve Philippe Clement of the duties of the Rangers manager. And I've got to say, I'm kind of a wee bit surprised, Ross, because I thought that maybe we're going to hold on to the end of the season. What about you?
I think so as well. I think it probably explained a lot after the news broke during the week that we were obviously going to have a takeover. I think that probably made a lot of sense as to why we weren't spending the money to sack the manager. But I think we're now at a stage where it has gotten so far down the road that it's completely unsavable. And even in a season where we have very, very little to play for, it can only get worse. And I think they have to make the decision to relieve the manager of his duties.
And Ryan, it looks like that's what they've done. So your feelings on the matter and spoken form this time, please.
Aye, listen, about time. They should have done this months ago, mate. Months and months and months ago. I actually said I'd have sacked him at half-time with the Dundee United draw at home, to be honest with you. Hopeless. Absolutely hopeless. It's so abundantly obvious, and it's lack of motivation, lack of professionalism throughout the team. Europe, aye, fine, but it's came too late, to be honest with you. It's came too late. We should have done it before the Christmas period because we'd had a chance to actually catch them up over that.
It was, from the good news breaking last week, there's a possibility Ross has been taken over by another investment group, the 49ers. Obviously, we did a pod on Friday night about it. It was the life was sucked out of the fans, I think, by that result against St Mirren, and I guess this is what it really needed to happen.
Absolutely. It just shows that even when good things happen, we can't have good things for long. As Rangers supporters, we had 48 hours of hope and expectation. I think that to look forward to what's going to come in the future. Now, I understand that there's concerns and there's a bit of trepidation when Americans are coming into European sport, and I've had my own opinions about that. But it's a fresh start. It's a new idea. And then Rangers, we forget that we're not thinking to the future. We have to think about the now as well. And Rangers bring us crashing completely back to reality in terms of the game and the performance. And I know the manager is another guy who's carrying the can, but the players' attitude as well, I think, can't be missed within it all as well.
Well, I'm joined by Scott and Ross. Thanks, guys, for coming on. Love the hat, Ross. I've just been trolling through the internet to get a 49ers top as well. How are you doing this evening, mate?
I'm good. Big news coming out of Ibrox tonight then. Interesting stuff. It's been a wild week, hasn't it?
Ross, if I can stay with you, when were you done with the manager?
Do you know what? I've kind of toed and froed with my support. I think, like a lot of fans, I've kind of been willing and wishing that things would take a turn for the better. But I think arguably around Christmas time, I think it was probably the point that I kind of started losing faith. I think the Old Firm victory bought him a bit of time, and I think his European performances have given us some level of belief that there's something worth clinging on to. But after the Queen's result, I think that the writing was very much on the wall. How he survived that, I'll never know. And if I'm being honest, I'm actually quite surprised that he is going now, because I thought that it's a pretty pointless venture. But there's paying fans, there's people. Nobody wants to see Ibrox half full or less, and the exodus that we saw at the weekend there. So it's been a long time coming, Billy.
Ryan, you wanted to come in on that. You've stepped on Scotty's toes there.
I'm sorry, I'm sitting refreshing my phone as you're speaking. Obviously, Heart and Hand, a credible source, good friends of the show as well. It's done. Clement has been sacked. Official confirmation will follow soon, but staff have been informed. So that's now gone from it's done, he's been sacked, to he has been sacked. So they're basically putting their coat in the hanger as far as that's concerned when they said he has been sacked. So anytime now, basically, for official announcement.
Scotty, I'll come to you to welcome you onto the show. Obviously, we've been texting about this the last couple of hours because we heard some rumours this afternoon. Heart and Hand's as good a source as any, if you agree with me on that.
Oh, 100%, Billy. 100%. Can you hear me okay, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. 100%. I think any of the big guys in fan media, four lads, Heart and Hand, it's all pretty reliable. I'm glad he's gone, to be brutally honest with you. It's probably 5 or 6 months too late for me. I wanted him gone in October. I started putting pods out on his future back when his results weren't clicking. When he'd said that we were going to get these, we were going to get this upturn in performances between October and November. Didn't happen. It changed. It fell into something with Danilo and Igaman up front. That's wittered away to nothing. It's just been embarrassment after embarrassment. He had a few triumphs, Billy, in the Europa League. He done his proud against the Premiership opposition and Man United and Tottenham. But I think that's the only kind of really good things this season. I didn't even take a 3-0 win against Celtic as a positive, to be brutally honest with you, because the writing's been on the wall. We've been saying we've been kicking the can down the road for how long now? We've even done 2 pods called Kicking the Can Down the Road. And it's about time that this news is confirmed, so we're just waiting official confirmation for Rangers. You're on mute.
You're on mute, Billy. Still on mute, Billy.
I was trying to sort that echo I was hearing. Thanks, Ross. I was going to say, new guy Ross, can I come to you because as Scotty was saying, the writing's been on the wall for a while. It is the conundrum of putting together a good team in Europe like he has done, and then that doesn't translate into good results in the Premiership, does it?
It's bad days that I'm new guy Ross, and there's been 2 other Rosses added into the pod since I've been here, and I'm still new guy Ross. No, 100%. But that's been the conundrum with this Rangers side, this Rangers as a club for the last 5 or 6 years, that we've had some amazing results in Europe. Some of the best, the most consistent. Most consistent period of European results in our entire history. I think you probably have to go back far longer than any of us have ever been alive to ever come close to it. But when that doesn't replicate as domestic success, unfortunately, because we're a club where you have to win the title every single season, when you don't win that, then unfortunately, regardless of Europe, it's a great distraction, but it's not good enough at the when it comes down to it. I wanted to just echo something as well there. We're talking about the manager being finished. When you have fan media and you have someone like Stevie Clifford, who has been, to his credit, very, very virulent to the manager, when he's telling the manager to his face, the support don't want you here, how can you survive that? Regardless of anything else, how can that be, deemed as acceptable when you have fans in the press conference telling you to basically leave? And he says, nah, it's not up to me, it's up to the board. So it's basically a guy waiting for his payout.
Yep. Ross Graham, if I can come back to you, mate.
Yep.
Many people, there's even been some comments that's Tav got another manager sacked. I disagree with that, not because I think Tav's playing particularly well, just he was too stubborn with his tactics for me, and not even towards the end, the whole tenure. And when he did find a formation that worked due to injuries, he quickly went back, as we've seen last week, to his preferred option. But this is what's got him undone in the end, I guess.
It's a really good point. I think definitely tactically and from a coaching point of view is where most of the frustration has come. I think he did kind of, when the wheels started coming off initially, he's probably listened to the fan base a bit, in which he started playing Igaman and Dessers and playing more attacking options. I think if you take a step back, I think that this year has been a catastrophe for us all. I think it was destined to fail. I remember doing pods during the summer with you guys and talking through the lack of, I guess, rumors, lack of conversation about players coming in through the door, which is always a worrying sign, especially when we knew that we needed huge reinforcements to be able to compete. I think then when you look at selling some of our valuable assets or offloading some of our valuable assets for nothing, which, by all means, a lot of fan pressure on players like Campwell, players like Lundstrom, who should really have a value, right? They should, and if we were adequately run by the board and by our recruitment team, then they would be sold for a profit, and or sold at least for a value more than what we saw kind of coming through on the press. So the season got off to an absolute nightmare in all essence, in all things considered. So I think that's why there was probably some lingering sympathy towards Clement. But as you rightly said, the way that we're playing on the pitch, and the actual lack of kind of creativity, lack of ideas, lack of tactical flexibility, all of these things are noticed by us fans, and that is in Clement's control. So I think it's gotten to the point where actually he can't really ride that ship of I didn't have the money or I didn't have the backing anymore. I think what we're seeing on the pitch is just a clueless team, and a manager who has probably gotten past that teetering point, right? You see it with people like Ten Hag when it almost becomes delusionary. And I think that moment has been and gone. And it was probably, as I say, about Christmas time that actually the delusion was fully set in. And then the excuses came out, and the constant belief or saying that he's believing that there's enough quality and there's enough in there to turn this around. So look, there's loads of things to factor into the demise of Clement and his tenure at Rangers, but the things we're seeing on the pitch at the minute are certainly under his control and far from good enough.
Just to address a few of the comments, people are asking what's happened. Is this official? It's been confirmed by Heart and Hand that Clement is gone, and also we're hearing it's also on Sky News now that he's set to be sacked. But we're taking it as that he has been relieved of his duties. Ryan, I'll come back to you. You've probably been at more games than any of us this season. Is there a real danger that if the board hadn't made this decision, that there wouldn't be much there? And even the European games, I seen a poll online the other day there that quite a lot of people weren't going to renew the subscription for that ticket. So is that something that maybe was played into the factor of why now?
Yeah. I mean, if you'd actually just seen the amount of people that left the stadium yesterday after the second goal, and myself included, to be honest with you, and I'm not one to leave early. Only other time I can, in recent memory, I can remember leaving early is when Liverpool beat 7-1. I think I left after the fourth or fifth goal, so I didn't like what I was seeing. So I'm usually one that will stick to the end and support the team and win, lose or draw in normal circumstances. But after that second goal went in yesterday, I was absolutely disgusted, to be honest with you. And I felt as if I had to take myself out of the situation, to be honest. And as I turned around and looked, I was just at the wee Rangers, and I turned around and I looked back along Edmondson Drive, and half the stadium looked as if it was on the street, to be honest with you. So I think Patrick Stewart would have seen that himself. And when your customers are leaving and walking out the door, you've got to do something about it. And hopefully he has. And it looks as if it's happening.
Guys, there's a lot of people watching us live at the moment. If they are new to the channel, please like and subscribe us, and please follow us again for our pods that's going to be happening over the course of this week. Scotty, if I come back to you, why have they waited till now? Is it just that factor of the loss of income coming in over the next couple of months?
Who knows? They've already got income with season ticket books, but you've got likes of Ryan and Dylan that we've seen live on the pod that said that they'll not be getting back because of the football and stuff that's been put on show and etc. It's a poor show that it's taken this long, but it is what it is, Billy. At least it looks as if it's done. I says yesterday in all our group chats that we've got that his body language, the way he walked right up the tunnel, told me he was a dead man walking. He was gone.
Yep.
And thankfully, that's turned out to be the case. Well done, Rangers, for taking the decision, but you should have took it a couple of months ago.
Ross Sterling, if that makes if I don't offend you by calling you that and not New Guy Ross anymore, the obviously the noise is coming out of who's going to take over. I don't want to pronounce his name wrong, but Issam Charai has been rumoured to possibly take over. There is other manager possibilities. We've done pods on it. None of them, I think, particularly ideal for our circumstances right at the moment. You probably don't want the new guy coming in who's going to be the one that takes us forward, because he's going to be tarred with this season as well. What's your thoughts on who the potential manager should be at an interim basis?
I mean, it's hard to say because it is a bit of a poison chalice. I don't think that a long-term permanent manager should be made at this moment in time. If we've learned anything from the last 3 or 4 seasons, it's don't appoint a guy and let him, if we appoint a guy for the next 3.5 years and we go to Parkhead in 3 weeks and get a drubbing, then that will be held against him. That's been the issues with, it was the issue with Van Bronckhorst, it was the issue with Michael Beale, and it was the issue with Philippe Clement as well. It became part of the reasoning why he's been sacked. I think somebody needs to come in, and they might get a couple of bad results, but that's because it's a bad team as well. They need to come in, steady the ship, and then when the new owners come in the summer, hopefully all things considered, all the boxes are ticked, then they've got their own guy, their own ideas. But for the moment, it's really, really hard to say. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about Gerrard. No, I've seen some. I think it was somebody in our chat as well had mentioned. I've seen somebody mention Neil Warnock. No, just it's not really a particularly great pool of people, to pick from. But who's going to want to take it at the moment, because it's just been an absolute disaster. The only thing you've really got to sell at the moment is the opportunity to take Rangers further in Europe, which this team's really good at turning up. So if you turn up and in 3 months at Rangers, the only thing you've done is beat Fenerbahce and take us further in Europe, and that's not the worst thing to have as a even as an interim manager. But it's really hard to say, and the board better have a hell of a contingency plan, because otherwise season books, renewal time will be coming up soon, CCCS stuff, so they really need to pull it out their backside.
Jock, let me welcome you to this multi-podder pod and ask you, I think we've talked about it on our pods on Mondays that it was time for him to go, but just what's your feelings now that it's pretty much happened?
Just the most inevitable thing that was coming, wasn't it? You were just waiting on it, and it was just. I think that you could see the change after the Queen's Park game, because we always knew this team had a bad game in them, and usually that comes in the league, and I think the shock was there for everybody when it came against Queen Park, especially at Ibrox. And then the next game is the Hearts game, which is a freak game because there's 2 own goals and Butland makes a couple of good saves. Mm-hmm. So that papered over the cracks, really. Next game, it's all there. It's laid out there to see. And I think this was just something that should have been done a long time ago. I think Patrick Stewart did back himself into a corner a wee bit by the way he came out and backed him initially. But now that it's done, it's dusted, it's just a matter about looking forward. We just have to get somebody in that can steady the ship a wee bit and try and get a spark back in that team, because there was nothing there on Saturday. Nothing at all to even go by. And as you were saying there, the big game coming up in Europe now, that's going to be a draw for somebody. Who's it going to be? That's the big question.
Ryan, managerial wise, what mistakes from the past do we need to learn from in the short term, at least?
I think more or less just what you're saying about not appointing a permanent manager at this point in time. There's absolutely nothing to play for, if you're being honest. We've got to be kind of aware of where we are as far as the European competition is concerned. That's a monster challenge if we want to do that. If we get through this next round and we reward ourselves with a wee trip to Rome or Bilbao, then that would be seen as an achievement to me, to be honest with you, considering the season we've had. But as far as actually appointing a new manager is concerned, it's a difficult one. I don't particularly think that Gerrard or Van Bronckhorst were bad appointments, to be honest with you. You're both kind of young, up-and-coming managers. Van Bronckhorst always had a better track record than Gerrard. It's a real difficult one, to be honest with you. There's a lot of names that excited me. We're talking about it. The Malmo manager excites me. I think he could be a good acquisition. Obviously knows what it takes to win trophies. Good knowledge of the Scandinavian market as well. So he'd be one I'd be looking towards. It wouldn't surprise me if an American manager came in. We've seen what Leeds did with Jesse Marsh when they appointed him. So it wouldn't surprise me to see is it the Cincinnati manager that we're talking about on the podcast the other night as well? There's a possibility coming in.
Wilfred Nancy, Columbus Crew.
Yeah, Columbus Crew, was it? Yeah, so something like that wouldn't surprise me, to be honest with you. But it's not so much the mistakes as far as managers is concerned, it's mistakes as far as recruitment is concerned for me.
Fair enough, mate. Well, look, there's 6 of us on. I'm going to pop off because I'm on dinner duties this evening. I'll hand you over to Scotty. Matt, from my 2 pence worth, I'm relieved that it's finally over. So enjoy the rest of the pod, guys, and have a great night.
Cheers, Billy. Right, so here we go. Rangers are looking for a manager yet again, guys. Rangers are looking for a manager yet again. I'll come run yous all, and you can tell me who you want, not who we think it's going to be. Who you want as interim manager at the end of the season. Ross, I'll come to you first. Ross Graham.
Yeah. I would like Steven Gerrard in as manager until end of the season. I think it works for all parties. Someone that's coming in that knows the club, knows what it's about, gets him back in the shop window in British football. If things work out well, and we do get this, the takeover that we're looking at the end of the season, if that goes through and things are working well, then you've got a manager that is high profile. He has links to America, so he played at Galaxy. They will know of him in the States more than probably some other people. And I think if you were looking for someone to come in and put a rocket up a number of players who are underperforming, who better than Steven Gerrard? If nothing else, seeing him out on the training pitch, learning from him, showing the leadership that Clement clearly has been unable to show of recent times. I think it'd be something that would suit a lot of people. And as I say, it would be an interim for the time being. But also, if things pan out and work out okay, then I still think he's got unfinished business. And also, I think, Gerrard's European pedigree, that was the reason that Clement was kept in. He did manage to get some good results as manager of Rangers in Europe. And I think, he knows what it takes to win at that level. So, yeah, I'd be, I think he'd be the man that I'd be looking at. I think there's a few other names that could be floating about. I know I do have a source that's messaged me about Jose Mourinho. I think it's a very tenuous link at this stage, but get him in soon and then maybe don't have to pay for his flight back after the leg at Ibrox. Just keep him, just lock him in a room somewhere and hope for the best. Maybe a bit of a pipe dream, but hey ho, who knows what will happen in the future? But yeah, for me at the minute, Steven Gerrard would be ideal.
Aye, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. I think Stevie G ticks a lot of boxes, like you say, in terms of that figurehead. I seen something earlier on social media that was like a Rangers manager needs to come from a gut instinct by saying that you need a figurehead at a club. That you go back to Walter, Souness, Gerrard, you can put him in that category. He walks in and he instantly gains the respect to the dressing room. We'll stick with Steven Gerrard just now, and I'll come round the rest of the guys and kind of get their thoughts. Ryan, I'll come to you first. What do you think about Gerrard potentially coming back till the end of the season?
Bite your hand off. Absolutely. Totally.
Aye.
I loved the guy before he even signed for us, to be honest with you, before he became a manager. He was a huge football hero of mine growing up. I'm not even a Liverpool fan, to be honest with you. I just admired his style of football and his desire to win. And seeing him lifting trophies, European trophy in Istanbul especially, in the game that they won after being 3-0 down. That'll live with me forever that night. That was an absolutely fantastic game. So he's got my admiration, he's got my vote. And I think what you're saying about, commanding presence and the aura that you describe when he walks in the room, underperforming players, there's certain guys that just won't get away with what they're doing. Your Cyril Dessers of this world won't get away with missing 5 yards out in front of goal at the Copeland Road, as he did yesterday for us. There's guys like Bizrami who go missing in games that won't get away with stuff like that when you get somebody like Gerrard as manager. My only concern is, will he come back whilst Dougie Park's still involved with the club? Because that was pretty much one of the main reasons why he left us in the first place, was because of the broken promises that he had. But I'd like to think that Park's on the way out the door as well. So we'll see. But if I could pick anybody in the world, he'd be my man.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Just if you're tuning in, you're watching, you want to take part in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and that will give you access to take part in the comments and put your suggestions in below. But first, get your thoughts on Steven Gerrard. Ross Stirling, I'll come to you, mate. What's your thoughts on Stevie G coming back? Are you a guy for bringing back past times, or are you wanting to look forward to the future? What's your thoughts on an interim basis for Gerrard?
I'm going to get kicked off. I wouldn't have Steven Gerrard anywhere back near Ibrox, to be honest with you. I think the way that he left was really, really bad. I've still got a bit of a sour taste in my mouth about the way that he left. Nobody knew about it until he was pictured on a train going down to Birmingham with Christian Purslow, and he didn't even tell his captain, with Tav on Twitch or whatever it was saying, no, we don't know anything about it. I just don't think we should be going back. You can't take away some of the good things that he'd done, but I don't think at this stage, when we're getting ready to rebuild the club completely, even in an interim stage, I don't think we should be going back. I think we need a fresh face with even a couple of ideas just to try and inspire through the end of the season. Who that is, it's difficult to say. It really, really is. I've no idea who, because the pool's not particularly great, of who would want to take a job where there's essentially nothing to play for. And in that aspect, if it was somebody like Steven Gerrard, then at least you would. I understand the respect that he would command. He's attempting to rebuild his career as well after a bit of a bad spell in Saudi Arabia. But if it was my own personal choice, I wouldn't have it.
That's fair. Joe, come to you on Steven Gerrard. You've got two well-respected opinions that are saying yes. And Ross, another well-respected opinion who's saying no. Where are you at on Stevie G?
I think in term-wise, yeah, 100%. Steven Gerrard back, Stephen Davis is his midfield general that he had, that 55 season. I think would be a great partnership. I think on paper it makes sense. Gerrard went to, I know I can understand the sour taste in people's mouths. I get that. I totally get that. But Gerrard was let down by the board. Gerrard was on Sky asking the board to back him, was given it that he wanted to stay and all that stuff. And if, as a manager, and he's seen what needed to be done to take that team forward, and he was let down. Simple as that. It's a broken promise. I can understand why he went. Yes, probably the way he went probably wasn't ideal. But then his first signing was a £25 million player. It's different levels when you're going to the Premier League, and it was always going to be the case. He was going to the Premier League. That's his calling. So the first chance he got, he's went. Granted, it didn't work, and then he's went to Saudi, and it's not worked out there. Maybe this position here for a couple of months, couple of big games, see it to the end of the season, get your feet back under the table in terms of as a managerial role at a big club. He knows the place. He knows a lot of the squad. And he, as I always say, he's an aura manager. Steven Gerrard, players are going to look like, Jesus Christ, that's not Steven Gerrard. Sorry for saying. He's just one of those guys that just demands your attention whenever he speaks. Philippe Clement, Michael Beale, Van Bronckhorst didn't buy into what they were saying at the end of the press conferences. I just always found myself switching off, or if I'd stick it on and then I'd go elsewhere and I'd look elsewhere. When Steven Gerrard was speaking, I was listening to every word he was saying, because that's just the sort of character he is. And I think that's what some of these guys in this dressing room needs, is just somebody to talk to them and get through to them and try and get that spark back, because that's what we're missing. So him and Stephen Davis, for me, until the end of the season would be ideal, because there's no real risk there. Takes them through, and then if the takeover happens, then the board can sit and say, right, we have a decision to make. We can probably go out and look for somebody else, but we'll see how he's performed. It's a no-brainer for me.
My concerns would be about Gerrard would be the amount of time he needs on the training pitch. You've seen it in his first season compared to his second season. There's a lot of progress, and then COVID hit, etc., etc. By the time he got to 55, the team was like a well-oiled machine. They knew where to go. The muscle memory was there, etc., etc. So I would be a wee bit apprehensive about coming back as interim. If you're bringing him back in a 3-year deal, then potentially, but does Michael Beale come with him? Carmel, put that question to you. Happy to see you on, mate. I'm glad to see you with a smile on your face, knowing what, the announcement that's coming up. What's your thoughts on potentially Steven Gerrard back as an interim?
No, for me, backward step. I think Ross is obviously fishing a wee bit in the comments there. I'm no one for taking backward steps. Steven Gerrard gave us a fantastic 55 season. Was very heavily reliant on the team that was round about him. Although I do agree with Jock, he did listen to him, he did command respect, all that sort of stuff. But I want us to try and look forward and not backwards with regard to Steven Gerrard, because I think we invested a lot of money in him and his support staff. So I'm not sure if that certainly wouldn't be the route I would go down, to be perfectly honest with you. But it has to be said this multiple times, has to be an interim appointment. Said this at the start of the year. Interim appointment. There's obviously the takeover. Everything else is filtering away in the background. Permanent appointment from the 1st of June with a clean slate and take it from there. It was always going to this was always going to happen. But Steven Gerrard, enjoy your life out in Qatar, Dubai, wherever it is you're based at the moment. Enjoy it with your family. Get into the media. But coming back to Rangers, no for me.
Ross, Graham, I think you've got some news, ain't you?
Yeah, no, just seeing online that Sam Matterface on TalkSport is apparently saying that we're trying to get Gerrard in until the end of the season. I completely hear you, Cammy. And look, I think as a football club, we want to be taking steps in the right direction. I think as a concept, all agreed on that. I don't think anyone's going to disagree there. But a short-term fix with someone that comes in that knows the club, knows how to operate in Europe, knows how to get the best out of players, and an injection of leadership, which I think is so critical at this point, would be welcomed. So take the fact that it's Gerrard out of the equation, but if you have that as a concept, then I'm sure we'd all probably agreed that that wouldn't be a bad situation to be in. Obviously, there is a lot of moving parts at Ibrox at the minute, not just from management point of view, but from positions of power, and that looks to be an evolving story that will change over as we move towards summer. So who knows what that long-term vision looks like? But for the time being, if you could get someone in who's going to give that injection of leadership, of kind of quality, and demonstrate some of the sort of responsibilities that he did previously, I would be all for it. I don't think it's a bad appointment. Now, I think there's a very different question in, is he the man over 5 years? Is he the man to take us to the next level? I think it's a different question. But if we could get him in and get him working with the players that we've got, showing some of his leadership and quality, and getting them playing to a certain extent, I think that would probably be as good as we could ask for between now and the end of the season.
Ross, I'm going to stay with you. Does Beale come back in with him? What's your thoughts on that? Because Beale was reported to be the brains of the operation, the whole kind of... He was the engine of it. He was the one in the engine room. Would you take Beale back? Coming there.
Well, firstly, I'll open up to the comments. So if you're watching this at home and you've not seen the Rangers Journal before, please do subscribe to this. There's plenty more rubbish content like this coming out very soon. But no, it would be good to get your thoughts whether Michael Beale makes his kind of hat-trick appearance at Ibrox. For me, I think that would turn the fans. I think it still leaves a very bad taste in our mouth, the way sort of Beale led our team and spent our money and probably added to the situation that we're in now through the kind of recruitment that he put in place. I would say no. I don't think he should be coming in. I think his time at Rangers has well and truly been and gone. I don't think you'll be seeing his face in the dugout, certainly in the home dugout at Ibrox anyway, anytime soon. Yeah.
Fair enough. Has anybody got a different opinion on Beale potentially coming in that wants to come in on it? No? Because I know I don't want him back anywhere near a club. Nobody, right? I think that's a pretty unanimous no. Alex Ray, Corey is. I think he's part of the ones that's packing his bags as well. Ross Dillon, I'll come to you. Have you got any idea who you would want in as an interim manager?
No, like I say, I had already kind of said that it's a really, really hard thing to do. But like I say, I understand the points of Gerrard, and like I say, I know I've went on a big rant about not wanting him. I understand we need a guy to come in now and essentially fight fires. We don't need somebody to come in and fight and be for the next 5 years. It's just not the stage we're in. The difference being now is, like I said previously, is that at least we're not bringing him in November and they say, oh well, if we get the bounce, then get a new man, then get a new contract like we've done with Clement. He came in, took us to the League Cup, nearly dragged us into a title race, and everybody went, oh no, he just needs back. He gets a new contract, and then before the end of the following season, he's out on his backside. That was just the most Rangers decision ever, is to give a guy an undeserved contract to then sack him within a year. It was just baffling. It's like I say, it's really difficult, but I think a lot of the boxes that need to be ticked aren't about tactics. It's not about who's going to come in and make us play a fluid 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3 or blah blah blah, whatever. It needs to be somebody at the moment who's going to get in there, grab the club by the scruff of the neck and drag us to the end of the season, because that's all we really need at the moment, is just somebody to stand up and, you know, give us a little bit of something, like something more than what we're getting at the moment, because what we've had at the moment is just disgusting. It's been an absolute disgrace for the last wee while, especially.
Yep, 100%, 100%. Ryan, I'll come to you, mate. Curry's apparently he's saying this. He's have to take this seriously. I don't believe he is being serious, but Ange and Russell Martin. Now, Ange is a bit of a non-starter, right? He's still at Tottenham, etc., etc. It's not going to happen. What's your thoughts on Russell Martin coming in?
Nah, not for me. See me talking about things like. I don't know, to be honest with you. I really don't know. I said Gerrard purely because of all the boxes you're ticking there. I can't really see it. My heart says Gerrard. My head tells me the Issam Chari will probably the one. I don't think the club will do. Whilst there's a takeover ongoing, I don't think you'll see anything controversial whatsoever, to be honest with you. Curry's having a laugh there, to be honest, as he usually does. No chance, Ange Postecoglou. Russell Martin for me is big no, absolutely no chance. Don't rate him at all. No, never rated him as a player, never rated him as a manager. We can do better.
Fair enough, mate. Welcome, Dylan. I see you've joined our membership scheme as well. Thank you for that. Every contribution to the channel is welcome. So we've got some kind of live odds on the next manager, and it's Steven Gerrard at 65, Russell Martin at 2-1, Gary O'Neill 94, Sean Dyche 5-2, Muscat 11-4, Steve Cooper 3-1, and Rob Edwards 4-1. Gary, I'm going to come to you now. Is there anybody that you would like to see can then take the interim job, or do you think it's going to be the obvious one in the Moroccan coach?
I think Ryan's spot on. I think that's what it will be. I would expect him till the end of the season. They're not going to rock the boat too much. There's nothing that can really be achieved between now and the end of the season. I just think it'll be the weight is off everybody's shoulders with regard to this is the inevitable sacking of Philippe Clement. So that's what I would be, and potentially your Kevin Thompson, Stephen Davis, Stevie Smith, somebody like that to help support. Neil McCann, that's another one. He spoke very well on Sports Scene last night, but I think there's a difference between talking as a pundit and getting your message across as a coach, to be perfectly honest with you, although he does show a good understanding of the game. I think the Moroccan guy, it's terrible that I can't actually pronounce the guy's name, but I think that's what I would be expecting. I think the bookies are just guessing, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't think there's a great deal of thought being put into that. It'll be interesting to see what the official announcement tells us. But that's, for me, I think the appointment. Steven Gerrard, again, to go back to it, it would just worry me if you got another bounce, that you then, the American owners then get excited about Steven Gerrard and all that sort of situation. Steven Gerrard potentially is a short-term appointment, but it cannot be the answer moving forward. We have to, as a football club, look forward and not backwards for the next appointment, in my opinion. So I can't even remember what your question was, to be honest with you, but my head's a bit all over the place, because I think we're all just waiting on the announcement and actually see if the announcement gives a bit more detail. You would assume so. We're getting close to 7 o'clock, and I think that was the betting odds that we were all taking earlier on when the announcement was going to be. So at least they've obviously watched the Liverpool Man City game. Maybe they're watching the post match and that, and then they'll get the announcement out at 7 o'clock.
What was the final score? Finished 2-0.
2-0. Aye, performance of champions, very comfortable.
Fair enough. Jock, I'm going to come to you now. Is there anybody you want to see in particular that comes in till the end of the season? Or I'll put a different question to you: an interim or somebody that comes in now? Hopefully the both have got a contingency plan in place. Say, this is my guy, we're going with.
I don't think we can do that until this takeover is complete. You know, there's a lot of the sackings came probably at an awkward time, really, during this takeover. Obviously, because it's just obviously been announced, but until they get their feet under the table and the regime's theirs to do with what they please, we're not really sure what's going to happen in terms of people are already there. Are they going to bring in their own people? So for me, it's going to have to be an interim manager till the end of the season, and then it's a whole new setup, new coaching staff, new everything. Because the new manager's coming in will obviously want to bring his people in, and those people could be other clubs. You know, it's a big domino effect, really, isn't it? There's just so much going on. So for me, it's a caretaker, and then we find somebody that's got a philosophy, a football that we can try and use the summer window to try and back and build something new. As we say, we need to go forward. We can't be looking back.
Aye, that's fair, mate. That's fair. It's a fair point. Just a quick hello to Baz fans across the water. These guys do a show over on Heart and Hand, and they're absolutely excellent. So it's good to see them on. Dave, how you doing? All right? Do you mind if I bounce off for 5 minutes and I'll be back? Can you take your hosting seat for me?
Oh dear, tough times, Scotty. Aye, no worries, pal. No worries.
Cheers, mate. I'll be back in 5.
So how is everyone taking the news? You look as happy as me. Loving it.
I've obviously jumped on a wee bit later, and there was somebody shared on my Twitter with regard to Philippe Clement. And see, to be honest with you, I'm disappointed that we are actually back in this situation again. I was always proud as a Rangers supporter of the Blue Room and the murals on the walls, and there was very few Rangers managers up there. The situation across the last 5-6 years, it's embarrassing as a football club that we're in this position again. Philippe Clement came in. Philippe Clement got the bounce, won a cup very early, had a fantastic result in Betis, got us into a league title race probably a year ago today or around about. We beat Hearts 5-0 at Ibrox. Went to Kilmarnock on the Wednesday night, played abysmally bad at Kilmarnock, and that was the first signs of the wheels came off. Philippe Clement to me was a breath of fresh air in the first 3 or 4 months. Enjoyed listening to his press conferences. After listening to Beale, who ask him one question and he would deviate and give you another 42 answers that you hadn't actually asked. So I enjoyed Philippe Clement in the early period, but for the last 12 months, on and off the park, he's been a car crash. To be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us a year ago would have expected us to be in this position. But from that Motherwell game where we were abysmal to the end of the season, lost a cup final, pre-season, all that sort of stuff. He's just got. I mean, I've been well versed in calling him the Belgian waffle. I'll be pleased that I never use that emoji ever again. But I think I am pleased that finally we've got to this stage. But equally, I'm disappointed that Rangers and the Rangers support are having to go through this situation again, and the people that come in and run, well, Stuart and Thornton and anybody else that comes in, this next appointment has to be right.
Aye.
I feel like I said this after Gerrard. I said this after Van Bronckhorst. I said this after Michael Beale. We're now 23rd of February 2025. We can't be in this position at the 23rd of October 2026. We can't just be. John Bennett spoke about rinse and repeat, and I totally get that, but ultimately results are what matter, and performances matter, and actually seeing a vision and seeing what they actually work on Monday to Friday. That's what I want see from the next manager. But I just wanted to get across that Philippe Clement showed positive early signs, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But he's just got more inconsistent and incoherent and arrogant and ignorant and whatever other adjective I want to use across the last few months, and he's become thoroughly hard to listen to. So hurry up and make the announcement, Rangers. That's 7 o'clock.
Aye. Is anyone refreshing Twitter? Aye.
Of course. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting what you say there, Cammy, because he did get that bounce when he first came in, and then it all kind of went to hell very quickly after that. But that first bounce, you wouldn't have envisaged this. And one of the things I've seen on social media that was quite interesting was our worst results basically seem to come when he's had more time with the team. So if he's just doing kind of Sunday, Thursday rotation, he's actually okay. But as soon as he's got time to work with them, they seem to go back the way rather than forward. And I think, again, what you said about him there, he came in, he got that bounce very early on, and then, it all went to hell basically from pre-season, I would say. Welcome back, Scotty.
Aye, cheers, mate. I need to nip to the loo for 2 seconds.
No worries, bud. No worries.
Are you wanting me to take over, or are you quite happy? Just
you can take over, pal. I'm not going to be too long. It was just a wee bit of a celebration more than anything, to be honest. Bit of relief that it's all over, to be honest.
I know. How are you feeling?
I'm relieved, to be honest. I think the last few months, it's almost like when you've got a film or a series and you get a ton of spoilers and you find out what's going to happen next. We've all seen this before. We all knew where it was going to end up, but we've just been waiting for the end, and I think now it's come. It's a sense of relief. But the one thing I will say, mate, is now Clement's gone. All the pressure's on the players.
Aye, not half, mate, not half. What I want to say, and just do a quick whip round for an opinion, just a yes or no, and why you would get that answer, boys. There's a guy called Wilfred Nancy that the boys in the Coppin report or scouting department have really put their weight behind. He plays a 3-4-3 and it's a really, really aggressive press. Now the weakness to this is that if a team manages to break this press, it leaves you basically with 2 centre backs. It's nothing else. I've done a bit of diving into a guy myself to see. He gets very close with his players. He's a good man manager. He's got a bit about him in terms of authority. He's a bit of a mixed bag, and I think he was, Dave will know just as much as me about this. I think he was Thierry Henry's assistant in Montreal, or a team like that.
I think so. It was one of them.
And then he took the manager's job when Thierry Henry got back. He then took them second or something in the league. He's at Columbus Crew now. He's doing a fantastic job there with this system he's got. As a system, I don't think he's one for kind of changing that. So there's a bit about the guy, and the boys in the Coppin report are really, really passionate about him taking over, especially with all these American rumours. Jock, I'll come to you first, mate. What would you think about something like that?
Again, I think that it's all right bringing a manager in that has a system and a philosophy, but the players need to be able to have the ability to be able to carry that out. And seeing what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, it's hard to argue that they have that. You know what I mean? If it's a high press, high tempo game, I don't know if we're capable of doing that. And particularly in the league, it's all right in saying that MLS football is totally different to what we have to come up against every week in Scotland. And that's our downfall, is we can't break down these low block teams. But I'm all for trying something different. Don't get me wrong. I think that's what we need. We do need some sort of direction, style of play where everybody's pulling in the same direction and everybody knows what their role is. This is the problem with this Rangers team. Players don't really seem to know what they should be doing, particularly when it comes to the midfield, and then up front as well. And that's what's causing so many issues. We just keep doing the same thing. We just keep recycling the ball between the defence and the midfield, and that's it, back and forward. And that was highlighted as Neil McCann did on Sports Scene. He just showed it's the same thing over and over again. If somebody can come in and drill a system into these guys, patterns of play that we can break down, that then by all means I'm all for it. But maybe I'm just deflated for the last couple of servings we've had from the team. And I don't know if the team's capable of playing to a standard or a system like that. That's going to be high tempo, high pressing.
That's fair, Joe. That's fair. Ryan, I'll come to you, mate. Do you want to see a guy like Wilfred Nancy coming in with a system and identity, really aggressive press, or do you want to see somebody that knows more about Rangers and who's got the know-it-all, know-it-all to kind of close the gap on Celtic and get results? Like, do you think? Now, I think personally, with an identity, it lets you succession plan if it's successful. What's your thoughts?
Well, I've seen it work. I've seen it work both ways.
Where's your crop, Dad?
Somebody's got their mic on, sorry. I've seen it work both ways. Walter Smith, obviously, with the Scottish identity, with his great team that won 9 in a row. And then I've seen it work another way with Dick Advocate, with his team as well, that probably didn't have that Scottish identity, but had a lot of money thrown at them. So you don't need to have a real base knowledge of the league to be successful. You just need to be better than what your opposition. I'm all for that guy, to be honest with you, but you're going to need a lot of money because half our team won't be able to play a high press at all. Bazrami
relies heavily on pace, really relies on pace.
We've not got that at all at this moment in time. And leaving us with 2 centre-halves, we need 2 centre-halves that can defend. You look at NCL yesterday, that second goal, that was shocking, to be honest with you. I played goalkeeper in amateur football for a good number of years, and I've never seen anything like that in my life. That was appalling, that second goal yesterday. Butland's got to do better for the first one as well. It was just so poor all round. So if we go for somebody like that, we need to be willing to back the manager, and we've got to give him a right good war chest of money. Coppin's got to have a scrapbook ready of players that meet this thing with pace and stuff like that. Boy, you're talking about that's coming across from Asia. What's that young boy's name again? That's in the Coppin report that the boys quite like.
Aye, man. Or Yamada.
Aye, boys like that. Dare I say, we need to look for somebody like Kyogo and Maeda. Dare I say it, right? But that's the more, and you can see that the intensity that they play with and the results that they get. They need to beat Bayern Munich, don't they, for Christ's sake? We need to get like that. So, unfortunately, as far as a football team's concerned and as far as a business is concerned, that's the level that we need to aspire to at this moment in time. As much as it kills me and hurts me to say it, it's the truth.
Ross Graham, you want to come back in with some news, mate?
Yeah, just catching up on Twitter. Things are unraveling pretty quickly. Lots of different information coming out. Lots of memes coming out as well. So they'll be flooding your timeline very soon. Luca Chianti, who is a reporter, works with Reuters and a few other agencies, claiming that we're already in talks with Gerrard. So whether or not that has happened as of yesterday, following the defeat at home, and those conversations are ongoing, I believe. But also there are conversations with Sean Dyche as well. 2 very different managers, probably with 2 very different approaches. Obviously, they need to try and assess and understand what the tangible, KPIs, if you will, between now and the end of the season are. I would hesitate that European football and success in Europe is probably top of the list. I don't think there's anything else really we can shoot for. So Gerrard clearly has prowess in Europe, understands the club and can come in. Sean Dyche, very different, slightly more defensive and aggressive probably in the way he plays. So clearly, yeah, just trying to look at a few different options. It's a mess, no doubt. I would have hoped that over the past few months, the board would have had a plan in place, given that results have been so poor and the sort of losing the fan base, I think it's fair to say, early on in this season. So you'd have hoped those conversations have been going on. However, I guess on the other hand, with the changes at a potential ownership level, who knows who would have been making those decisions. So really interesting few hours and days, I think, coming up ahead. And obviously the looming takeover from the 49ers, which we're all hoping and praying comes to fruition, I think. But again, that could chuck a spanner in the works of who the next manager is. If I was to throw a guess in, it would be someone now as a stopgap till the end of the season. I think that's probably where most fans would be at until we understand what the intentions of the new owners would be, and kind of what their long-term strategy for the club is. But I guess just backing up my point earlier, if we did get Gerrard in, which I think would be the best option at the minute, potentially that could look like a longer-term thing, given his ties to America, having played for LA Galaxy, and his global kind of recognition. It could help get us on the map with that kind of global appeal that no doubt the 49ers will want to kind of exploit.
Aye, that's fair. That's fair, mate. I think, Mitch, I'll come to you in a wee minute. Cammy, you've got a question for Curry, who you want as the next Rangers manager, and is he going to be allowed in your Rangers room?
Well, to be honest with you, there's only real Rangers managers in this room, to be honest with you. Walter and Graham Souness, to be honest with you, so I really don't know. There's some thoroughly uninspiring comments with regard to Sean Dyche, etc. The situation for me is we have, I think you mentioned about competing with Celtic. We need to forget about Celtic. Rangers across the last so many years can't beat the other 10 teams. So until we can beat the other 10 teams, I think I actually agree with Curry earlier on. Curry made mention about, you were talking about a 3-4-3. Sounded very Ruben Amorim at Man United, very, very dogmatic. This is the way I'm going to play. To go back to the other name, Russell Martin, exactly the same. I'm going to pass for the back, regardless of whether my goalkeeper is any good. And we certainly don't have a goalkeeper currently that's good with the ball at his feet. So I want a manager that comes in that can adapt to situations and it can actually look at the Scottish game and what is required to win in Scotland. We can't just go through another situation where we continue to be providing automatic entry for Celtic to the Champions League and 100 million every single season. If we just keep doing well in Europe and that's great, but we're trailing 15, 20 points behind. I think that there has to just be a manager that isn't completely fixated, and it's very difficult within modern football that what guys like Walter Smith and Sir Alex Ferguson, I'm showing my age, but these people weren't embedded to 3-4-3s and playing on fixation with a number 10 and all that. They just wanted their team to win. They wanted their team to attack. They wanted their team to be committed, play as a team, all that sort of stuff. All the basic principles of 20, 30 years ago should still apply. But too many modern managers for me, and this is where I really hope we don't go down the route of a project manager, somebody that this is the way I'm going to play. I must play a number 10, that's one of the biggest failings of Philippe Clement. The next manager has to be adaptable and able to go to Kilmarnock on a plastic pitch or go away in Europe and make use of the players. I mean, I think Ryan's spot on with regard to the lack of pace in the Rangers side. That's a huge problem that the next manager is going to have to inherit. The fact that our recruitment has still been poor. Nils Coppin doesn't get out of this scot-free either. The recruitment's been okay under him, but there doesn't seem to have been a joined-up approach with regard to that. And pace, I mean, how many pacey players have we got on the side? So I don't know who the next manager, to answer Curry's question. I don't have a name. That's for, I hope, like Ross is saying, that I remember months ago you, Scotty, said kicking the can down the road. Only feels like 5 minutes ago, but I hope that since then, and certainly since Patrick Stewart came in, that planning has been going on in the background. If there hasn't been planning going on in the background, that's complete negligence. Yep. You should always be succession planning, regardless of whether your manager's doing well or whether your manager's doing poorly. But the next Rangers manager has to be somebody that is adaptable, isn't stubborn, and this is the only way I'm going to play. That's my only ask. And the names that have been listed thus far don't give me any sort of excitement as a full-time appointment. So sorry for not giving you a name there, Curry, but
Not at all. Mitch, I'm going to come to you. How are you, mate? How are you feeling?
Oh, like a weight's half the shoulders.
Aye.
But I think it's been a long time coming, and I've probably been guilty in the past of probably over defending him. But you can't have a run of results like we've had since post Christmas. We can't to accept it the way that we currently have is probably showing a complete lack of standards from the top to the bottom of the club. And when you're at a club like ours, you can't drop the standards. Like as Cammy's mentioned, some of the stellar names in the past, they're like Walter, like Dick Advocat. You can't. They wouldn't stand for losing to Queen's Park in a cup. They wouldn't stand for that. And yet our manager came out post match and basically went, "It's all right because our expected goals were higher than theirs." Just nonsense. But I think when you look at an interim level, I think we have to kind of be a bit sensible before we start running away and before things start running away for everybody. I think probably Shirai is the most likely candidate until the end of the season. He was a club appointed coach on a 3-year deal, was never part of Team Clement either. I think having one or two structured, sensible SPL level guys, maybe like names like Neil McCann that have been dropped in there, goes a long way to help him, or guys like Kevin Thompson or Stephen Davis coming back in to help him out a wee bit. Especially, we don't know how good his English is because he's not been in front of a camera yet for us. As far as I'm aware, anyway, he's not been in front of a camera yet for us. Do I think going down tapping the Gerrard well again is a great idea? Personally, probably not. And that's not based on anything that he's done here. He's also had the same trophy record as others here of he won 1 and 9 while he was here. Okay, he had a decent Old Firm record, but when you look at his career since he left us, it's not went well at Villa. It's not went well at Saudi, where you've got an open checkbook to do what you like. I think that's fallen 3 steps backwards, and what we need now is we know this summer's going to be a bit cleaner than the previous summer. We have a better idea of who's staying, who's going, but we also have a better idea of what's needed. That way we've got a much better idea of we need pace within the team. And I mentioned it earlier on, obviously, when we were talking off the pod about that middle tier of the team of we should only have a couple of players over the age of 30, 32. That middle tier of the team, I get about players ages 22 up to 28 with a good amount of experience under them, that you should have 2 for every position in the team. That says, look, if we'll say if Cammy's no fit to start at the weekend, then Scotty comes in and plays, and there's no drop in quality, between either player. Don't worry, Cammy, I'm not going to ask you to run at the weekend. You do enough running as it is. But there shouldn't be a drop off in quality. And then player number 3 within the role should be coming from within the house. They should be coming through the academy. Players like Bailey Rice, players like Paul Encial, players like Archie Stevens, players like young Robbie Fraser as well. They're the players that should be making up the addition at this point in their careers. But in terms of going forward, I think we need a manager that's going to come in and lay the foundations of the house have been laid after what's been done the last 2 or 3 windows now. The root problems have been gutted out. We know that players like Ben Davis, we know that Kieran Dow, for example, they will probably not be back in the summer. Rabbi Matondo, provided he stays fit, he's probably not back in the summer. So from a financial fair play perspective, there's a lot more wiggle room to play with. Would I want to see somebody full-time coming in right now? Probably not. If they did, we'd all probably have half a question on, did the prospective new ownership put them in? Or was it the current administration who put them in? Whose manager are they? I think putting Shirai into the end of the season with nominated sensible Scottish-based coaches beside him makes sense. For anyone unfamiliar with his brand of football, go and have a wee peep at what he did with the Moroccan under-21s at the African Cup of Nations. It's spectacular football. Do I think the current team are capable of doing it? Absolutely. You know, we've had players like Diamande playing out of his best position when he plays in the best of the left-hand side of midfield. We've been partnering as a square peg and a round hole. And as Camby touched on earlier on, the obsession with playing a 10, drop it. We don't have anybody realistically good enough to play in that role right now. And there's very few players in British football that we can afford that can play that number 10 position. If we know we've not got the fundamentals to do it, then what are we doing? That's like me turning up to Scotty's house to go and fix the electrics tomorrow. I'm not an electrician. Don't worry, Scotty, I'm not going to do your electrics. You're on mute, mate.
I said, you're not a good podder either, but we still have you on here.
That's all right, mate. I turn up every so often. You know what I mean? Turn up. Sometimes I
I'll
spout
look
nonsense,
at
sometimes
look
it's
at
sense.
Yeah, appreciate it. Dave, I'm going to come to you next on. There's a lot of chat in the comments about Derek McInnes saying that this is his time. We need somebody that knows the league. Is it time for McInnes?
It's a no for me personally, Scotty. I think we need a few things in the next manager, and I'm not necessarily convinced that being Scottish has to be one of them. So for me, I think Cammy's already hit the nail on the head. They need flexibility, right? You look at the teams we play in Europe, the teams we're going to play domestically most of the time. 100% need flex.
Though. Gio with flexibility, he'd change his formation, they snap their fingers.
You hate to ask yourself, though. I mean, if Gio had had the backing that Clement had and the time that Clement's had, would he have come through that? Don't know, maybe. You kind of say no, obviously, but for me, I think that flexibility is key. And we didn't see it enough in Clement. I think we need a team that can compete physically and mentally. And I think for me, that's the biggest challenge for the next manager is the mental aspect of it. We know these players on their day are capable of putting in a performance. Can they play the way that your Moroccan man, Mitch, was touting for it once? Who knows? Maybe no, but they have turned in some good performances this season. So they can absolutely play, but they fold like a cheap rug when the going gets tough. So for me, I think as much as anything, you need that people manager. That's maybe where your boy you were talking about earlier, Nancy, could maybe look at him. You need someone that can work with him, get in their head, also actually coach them. Would be a nice start, see some patterns of play, but above anything else, flexibility for me has to be number one priority. I'm with Mitch. I don't actually see a permanent manager at the minute. I don't think we should. I think it should be a caretaker role because for all we know, I mean, here, let's be honest, right? Do we want bloody Graham Park picking the next manager? No. Simple as that. So let's get someone in to do the job for a few months. Hopefully takeover's done by the summer. They get their own man in and it's a fresh slate for me.
See, I will say about the 49ers though, see when it came to appointing Daniel Farker, he was in at Leeds taking training when he didn't have a contract, it wasn't signed and it wasn't done, so it was like 2 weeks after pre-season had started. The Leeds fans were up in arms, so these things they take time because I don't think the actual handover of the keys to Ellen Road had been finished yet. So it's one of them ones. Ryan, where you at on McInnes? Is a Scottish manager a way to go?
Certainly as part of the coaching team, yeah. I think you need a Scottish, hopefully somebody does a bit better than what Alex Ray's done, to be honest with you. But I do think you need to have kind of Rangers men in the building within that are touching distance to the first team squad. We obviously spoke so fondly and fond memories of Jimmy Bell and the standards and the expectations that he installed whilst he was even just the kit man for us. And I don't want to say just the kit man because it was hugely important for us. But, you know, guys like, you know, you're talking about Kevin Thompson, Neil McCann, you know, Barry Ferguson's of this world that have got coaching experience. They need to be kind of there. At this moment in time, I don't see a Scottish, you know, representative that's out there that's got the calibre to take over a club the size of Rangers.